Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukino bhavantu.
The body is a musical instrument that is played by the life breath, and they're essentially neutral, positive, and negative entrainments there. Sattva, a lengthening of the tissue and an entrainment with being. Rajas, an expansion of the tissue with that inspiration where the macrocosm of the thoracic cavity expands at every level, right down to the quarks. Tissue radiates into an entrainment with the solar force, Rajas Guna. And the diaphragm descends into a lunar attunement, which entrains with the tamas, the feminine, the receptive, crystallizes into form. So every cycle is a cycle of natural and cosmic attunement to yang, yin, to rajas and tamas. Today, once again, our focus is rajas, fire, the creativity, personal power, the warmth and passion, vitality, vital energy, all of the red tissue of the musculature, all of the red organs that function. Fire is directed energy, creativity, power. Are ruled by fire, which predominates in the sympathetic nervous system. Energy moving from the core to the periphery for our expression in the world. Now, I wanted to talk about some basic elements of polarity therapy, first of all. Now, polarity is about making contact. We're not doing adjustments or manipulations, but we're making contact. I'm going to talk about the power of that contact. One of the things that we emphasize in this esoteric approach to energy medicine is that the definitive quality of life is cognizance, is presence, is sentience, is awareness. And in making contact, you're deeply present in the contact, whether the contact is through your eyes or through your hands or through your intuition. Making contact means being deeply present for another human being, really seeing them, really bringing the totality of your consciousness and your cognizance into the interaction. Now, one of the ways we make contact is through touch and by being deeply present in our hands. And we want to talk about how you can be more deeply present in your hands. So we say that the more grounded you are, the more centered you are, the more you can be deeply present in your hands. And we talk about this process of grounding, of one of establishing fulcrums. Now, in a mandala, the center is simply a center. But in an energy field, which is a mandala of energy, the field is always breathing, moving from yang to yin, from fire to water, from expansion to contraction. So the field is always dancing. The field is always undulating. As Alan Watts tells us, life wiggles. So in a dynamic field like that, we call the center, this dynamic center, we call it a fulcrum, because it's a dynamic center. And how do we align ourselves with that fulcrum? Because the more we are aligned with the fulcrum, the more coherent and potent our energy is, and the more coherent and potent our attention and consciousness and cognizance is. So the more coherent our fulcrums, the more centered we are, and it opens up the doors of perception in terms of expanding our threshold, because having a center, a grounded center, enables you to really feel the energy and entrain with the energy in really profound levels of awareness and attunement. And then, secondly, the more grounded and uh, centered your energy is, the more coherent it is. And the more coherent the energy, the more it's potentized, the more it's harmonious, the more the inner forces can unfold through the field, through the harmony and coherence of the field. So we're always cultivating being more grounded and cultivated being more centered through our fulcrums. Now, part of this is done psychically through intention, and part of this is done through developing habits of psychic protection and psychic attunement. So immediately, in the same way that you know when you put your hands on a client, that your consciousness focuses deeply, deeply, deeply into that contact. In the same way, it's very, very important that when you go to do polarity therapy and you sit down or you stand with your client, that you have established your fulcrums. So at the very beginning of our session, we establish our fulcrums by feeling our legs like the roots of a tree, grounding us deep down into the earth and breathing down through our legs, literally taking time and picturing this breath flowing down through our legs, picturing our legs like the roots of a tree to express that intention, breathing up through our legs, through our dantian, to our belly. This fire of the belly is related to the fire of the earth, because again, everything is cyclical, a flow from heaven to earth and a flow from earth to heaven. Because the earth is so dense, the flow from earth to heaven is ruled by Jupiter, and the core of the earth resonates and is entrained with the planet Jupiter, the most expansive, the most powerful fiery force in our solar, next to the sun, in our solar system. And the agency of the power of Jupiter is known as Brihaspati, Guru. That the quality of Guru is the expansion into the light, the evolution of consciousness and our own evolution. That Guru Brihaspati accelerates our evolution into the light, and our evolution from involution is the God energy, the divine energy coming into human form, coming into nature, coming into expression in nature, and evolution is this energy rising back up out of nature and rediscovering its inherent divinity. So involution describes energy moving from heaven to earth, from within to without. And evolution describes energy moving from without to within, from earth to heaven, from below to above. So we're always talking about the yang energy, which is the energy moving from heaven to earth, from within to without, from above to below, and the yin energy, the energy moving from the earth, from below to without to within, below to above. Uh, so there's always a cycle of polarity, a cycle of yang, fire, and yin, water, a cycle of masculine and feminine. So this yang is called rajas guna, the yin is called tamas guna, and tamas means to perish, but it describes the crystallization of consciousness in form. So both rajas and guna, the only energy in the system is the energy of life. And though we like rajas, its passion, its radiance, its creativity, and we give a thumbs down to tamas, it doesn't work that way. Even though tamas means to perish because it's the negative field, it's the crystallization of consciousness in form, we want to stop for a moment and realize tamas is the feminine. Tamas is the mother. Tamas is all manifest energy. Tamas is nature. So I love tamas. Tamas is an incredible experience of being in a body. Tamas is Shiva, Shakti. Tamas is Durga. Tamas is Parvati. Yes. Tamas is Dakshinamurti, Shiva as Guru. So that tamas is the whole of the fall of the year, the whole 6 months of the year, of the fall, of the late summer and fall season. So Tamas is the harvest, and Tamas are the things we harvest. Where Libra, love, and Sagittarius, wisdom, um, and Capricorn, power and control, and Pisces, cosmic consciousness. So Tamas, the crystallization of consciousness in the feminine, involves all of the qualities of Lakshmi, all of the qualities of Shri, of beauty and majesty and splendor and the incredible grace and compassion that define the feminine. So Tamas gets a bad rap, but that's a very superficial understanding of Tamas. The Tamas is all the beauty of the fall season, all the ripening of life, all the blessings of maturity. Sure, I'm dying, but it's a great ride. And there's a great, wondrous living even in dying. And, uh, and you can only get here by paying your dues. So we're talking about being present, and we're talking about establishing your fulcrums, and we're talking about getting centered and grounded in your fulcrums in making contact. So we begin our session by feeling our legs like the roots of a tree, breathing down through the legs and back up the leg. And everything is the breath of heaven to earth, from above to below. And then the evolutionary currents from below to above, literally from the solar system and the far reaches of Jupiter down through the very core of Mother Earth and breathing up through our root chakra. Why are these lower chakras the color of lava and then fire and then light? It is because they are illuminated by the energy of Jupiter, by the fire of Jupiter, the evolutionary force. Uh, so that the root chakra is vermilion, the color of molten lava, and the second chakra, the sacral chakra, is the color of flame. And these are ruled by Brihaspati. And when we invoke Brihaspati, we go Swaha. Swaha is the Shakti, the feminine aspect of Brihaspati. Uh, Swaha is the ancient Sanskrit name for the goddess embodied in fire, the feminine, the Shakti, the manifest power of fire. So let's Swaha and honor the goddess. So in any case, we're putting down our roots, we're sending a grounding cord. So the tip of the tailbone is an antenna that entrains with the molten core of the earth and entrains with Jupiter and is the home of the earth chakra, which then expands into the second chakra. The sacrum is a sacred chalice for the evolutionary force and is entrained with Jupiter, and is where that uh, return current, uh, uh, the second chakra, entrains with that Jupiterian field and emanate that Jupiterian field to accelerate our evolution through the life. So we're talking about the cerebral spinal fluid as the highest vibrational essence in the body, most concentrated in the ultrasonic core, and most concentrated in the as it flows through the connective tissue to bring grace and life to every dimension of the body. And we're talking about the cerebral spinal fluid being pumped between the sacrum and the cranium, and from that field out into every dimension of the body, and that cerebral spinal fluid in profound, profound ways being a dance between heaven and earth, between the crown chakra and Brihaspati, and Brihaspati emanating through Swaha, the Shakti, flowing from the Mother Earth. So we're talking about through intention, and through knowledge, understanding, uh, establishing our fulcrums, grounding and centering, and that is a foundation of our posture as polarity therapists. And again, posture is a bodily energy and the gestalt of your bodily energy as you do for any aspect of your life, where you have different postures when we're uh, home loving someone, or a posture when we're eating, or a posture when we're waiting in line, or a posture when we're upset or anxious or fearful. These are whole total bodily statements. As a polarity therapist, you have a posture when you're doing that work. Now, the next thing I want to emphasize when we're talking about your posture is, again, when uh, we're talking about putting down fulcrums when you're sitting. You can also put down fulcrums when you're standing. Dr. Stone really emphasizes feeling your feet on the ground, having your legs limber, pelvis limber, so that there's a elastic, a resilient quality, a vibrant quality in your muscular skeletal system and in your in the dance and fluidity and movement of your pelvis and your legs, and a grounding in that and a centering in that as well. Now, as we're talking about your posture as a polarity therapist, it's really important to understand in polarity we're using two hands. And we're always working with a flow of energy between these two hands. Right now, I can ask you to just take your hands and open up your aura, open up your energy field like this, and then put your hands together, and you can feel this beautiful ball of energy dancing between your hands. So every contact we make in polarity therapy is with two hands, and we're dealing with this molecular flow with this molecular flow, but with this etheric flow between the two hands, that wherever you put your hands on the body, you're creating a molecular flow in the atoms and molecules and cells of the body. You're creating an energetic flow in the body. So Dr. Stone says your body mechanics become really important in this. So we're talking about your grounding, we're talking about being low in your pelvis. We're also talking about your intention so that your whole body becomes like a ray gun, that you're grounded, you're connecting this energy from Brihaspati and from Mother Earth, and she's flowing up through your root chakra to your sacrum. Whoops, I disappeared in all of that. And 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 your body mechanics, the gestalt of your body mechanics, the gestalt of your posture is expressing your intention and is entering into that molecular flow. So that, I know in doing massage, they emphasize body mechanics, but we're saying yes, but we're talking about body mechanics in a very cosmic way, in a very deep way of just really aligning your intention, aligning your body, and seeing that your whole body as a vehicle for drawing this energy up out of the earth, out of your center, and having it radiate through your hands, radiate through your heart, radiate through that intention, and being part of the quality of contact that you're making. So, as I say, polarity is unique as a healing art for the consciousness that informs what we're doing, and the understanding that we are creating a molecular flow in the client that interacts with their energy fields on atomic and molecular and cellular levels to reconnect the field with the source. You are not the doer. The source is the doer. Again, the first rule of polarity therapy is the soul, the animating intelligence, is the dweller in the body. The life force is the dweller in the body. And from instant to instant, from nanosecond to nanosecond, it's only the presence of this life force, which is the intelligence holding that field together, that every field from quark to atom is a cybernetic mechanism maintaining its homeostasis. And that's only possible because of this cognizance. And this cognizance is the awareness of totality. And in every moment, the fluttering of the atoms of your body are one with totality, and and are part of the uh, uh, cybernetic mechanism and the homeostasis of the totality of the cosmos. So get your shit together, because what you're doing is really, really significant. So we're talking about the power of presence. Okay. So we introduce this work by talking about three principles: sattva, rajas, and tamas, the three uh, stages of entrainment of the breath of life that sustain the body through this dance. And in this first 2 weeks, we focused on sattva and the healing power of presence. And now in this next 2 weeks, we're focused on rajas, which is the fire, the vital, the creative, the power, the functional energy in the body. And in the last 2 weeks, we'll be focusing on the ultrasonic core. Now, one of the skills that we're learning in this work is a form of assessment, of pulse assessment. And our approach to pulse assessment and polarity there is very, very simple, very, very basic. Nothing like the kind of pulse assessment that you learn to do in traditional Chinese medicine, or the pulse assessment that you cultivate in Ayurveda, which is pretty accessible as well. But here we're just taking very simple pulses at the carotid arteries and at the FLH. In polarity therapy, we're going to be taking pulses here on near the carotid arteries, and we're using just the whole of our palms here, and it's essentially this. So polarity is a field theory. So you're using your hands to feel this whole field of life force pulsing. And again, if you're grounded and centered, you can really feel these pulses pretty easily up here. Usually it's a real strong pulse here. And then we're also taking pulses at the FLH, the flexor longus hallucis, which is a landmark for us. The malleola is what we call the ankle bone, and the inside of the malleola, just below and behind the malleola on the inside, is the flexor longus hallucis area, field, which represents the core energy at the negative field. So we're taking pulses at the of the core energy at the near the carotid arteries, and and just below and behind the malleola down below. So we're asking these three questions. What is so we can ascertain what's happening with sattva guna. The air principle rules the transverse currents in the body, which define the body from side to side, embodied in the sympathetic system, attaching the periphery of every dimension of energy to the core, and a cybernetic mechanism to maintain its homeostasis. So we can ascertain the imbalance in an air principle if the two pulses are not moving symmetrically. So if they're moving asymmetrically in a different rhythm, then the air principle is out of balance, and we do a sattvic session to balance the air principle. If we can barely feel any pulses above, and again, barely feel any or can't feel pulses below, then there's a lack of fire, a lack of vital energy. And we would do a rajasic session to pump up the vitality and break through blocked energy. Now, if the pulses were strong above and weak below, we'd assume there's a diaphragm block, keeping that energy from going from above to below. Or if they were strong below, if they were strong above and weak below, we would assume there's a pelvic block, and we do the watery pelvic session to open up the pelvis, allow the energy to flow from the center at the umbilicus out in through the negative field. Or if they were strong below and weak above, a diaphragm block was keeping the fire from radiating up through the diaphragm and keeping that prana, that life force, from radiating fully into the field. So by taking pulses at the carotid arteries and FLH, we can ascertain whether we want to do a sattvic session, a rajasic session, or a pelvic session, or a diaphragm session. These simple pulses will give you that very valuable information. And again, you can double check your information. The sense ruled by fire is the eyes. So if the eyes are asymmetrical, if the um, left eye is smaller, that indicates the left side of the body is the fiery dimension of the left side of the body is contracted. If the left lip is smaller, the lips are ruled by water, then the watery dimension, the water element, is contracted. If on the right side, the right eye is smaller, there are issues with holding back the personal power. The person doesn't feel safe to express who they are, to express their needs, to be in their power. And again, if the right lip is contracted and asymmetrical, that can indicate that they're afraid to express their emotions, afraid to express their love, afraid to make emotional connections. And it can tell us what's happening in their pelvis and their water chakra. So we have the pulse assessment, and the pulse assessment is backed up by our face reading. Here we see the face as a microcosm of the body. So we see how the lips uh, um, are a microcosm of the reproductive organs. You may have noticed that when you're smooching it up, it opens up your pelvis. In the same way, every pimple tells a story. Here you may get a pimple if this ovary is ovulating, this ovary is ovulating, or this ovary is ovulating. Here are pimples on the right side. This is this on the left is a gallbladder pimple, and then liver pimples. On the right, stomach pimples indicating toxicity there. Here are colon reflexes. Pimples along in here and here can indicate a toxic colon. In the same way, these are reflexes to the kidneys and armpits. The pimples there can indicate issues in those areas. So there's tip of the nose is the heart. That's why Eskimos kiss by the famous Eskimo kiss. I don't know if Eskimos actually kiss that way, but there's a classic kiss for your nose to nose. And these are heart reflexes. So it's a very sweet way of making contact with the other. On the other hand, and then on next to that are the lungs are embodied here. So you see someone with a swollen nose, like an old alcoholic, you'll see that the internal organs are swollen. You'll see that reflected in the red nose and the swollen nose and the swollen. But pimples and redness in these different areas can tell you what's happening in the organs below. So every pimple tells a story. Every wrinkle tells a story. We're looking at the body as uh, as a holarchy, where as above, so below. Every aspect of the body is a microcosm of the energy of the body. And then, of course, I do toe reading, where every dimension of the body is a microcosm of the cosmos. And we look at the way you're grounding the cosmos as a form of energetic and emotional assessment. We're talking about balancing. Okay, we're talking about, first of all, grandfather fire, and we're talking about fire as a level of cosmic intelligence with agency, and we're talking about grandfather fire as an elemental source of who we are. We're talking about grandfather fire as Brihaspati. Brihaspati is guru, who guides our evolution in India, renunciates who've given up the world, wear the Jupiterian colors, the sunset colors, like the fire on this, the color fire on this chart, the red on this chart, oranges and yellows. The solar colors resonate with Jupiter, and these colors accelerate your evolution into the light. And we're saying Jupiter uh, empowers the molten core of the Earth and empowers tamas guna, the energy moving from below to above, without to within, below to above, the return current of the cycle of life, the energy moving from Earth back to heaven, the evolutionary energy. And so uh, we call that tamas guna. And fire rules Rajaskuna, the yang energy, the energy moving from within to without, from above to below, the involutionary energy of energy coming from above to below, within to without, energy coming into form, the expression of evolution in form. Rajaskuna, you can tell when you're in a rajasic state on a cellular molecular level because rajas means to glow with excitement. And learning is very exciting, loving is very exciting, shopping is very exciting because we're expanding, and that is Rajas Guna. Rajas rules the fire element. Again, everything in the body is a reflection of the spectrum of consciousness. So the energy nearest the core is ether predominant, then air predominant, then fire predominant, water predominant, earth predominant. So the fingers represent uh, the fields of energy that are emanating from the chakras, the ether, air at the heart, fire at the solar plexus, water at the pelvis, and earth at the tip of the tailbone. And we can entrain with these elements by using the appropriate finger. So we're dealing with the fire center, the fire principle, and the fire element triad. So here we talk about the fire center at the umbilicus, which define the body from within to without, neutral at the big umbilicus, positive at the diaphragm, and negative at the thighs. And then we're talking about the fire principle with its source at the brow center, at the third eye, its neutral center at the navel, and its negative center at the air toe, the first phalange of the air toe, and the air fingers to stimulate the fire principle, which rules digestion. And again, these contacts at the duodenum and gallbladder, here at the diaphragm, are the keys to opening up our receptivity and opening up our self-expression. And in the energy balancing session, we're also going to be working with the fire element triad, the relation. We're going to be doing a Leo Sagittarius rock. We're going to be holding contacts between the fire of Aries at the brow center and the fire of Sagittarius at the navel. So we'll be taking this theory and applying it hands-on as we do the Rajasic energy balancing session.